She thought about it for a few minutes and said that she wanted them to take her and a couple of her friends to Hawaii as a gift. My parents agreed instantly, and Alex went to her room to celebrate and tell her friends. While she was in her room, I asked my parents if I was going to go with them or not, because I was honestly not sure. Usually when we are on family vacations, they do take me with them. But since this was a gift for Alex, I wasn't sure if my presence was required or was going to be appreciated by Alex, because she doesn't really like me much. I'm fine with it. I'm not really a fan of her either, because even though we are twins, she's very different from me. She's spoiled, arrogant, and mostly really disrespectful to everyone, and nobody who went to school with us likes her. It's just her gang of cronies who seem to think she's perfect, but I think it's just because they are just like her as well. Anyway, when I asked my parents if I would be coming along with them, they had to think about it for a while. I instantly knew that the answer would be no, because if they had to think about it, it couldn't be because they're willing to take me with them. They had probably already decided against it, and were just thinking of a way to tell me. After a few seconds, my mother spoke to me and said that since this was a gift for Alex, it would be unfair to take me with them, because then it would just become a family vacation. I pointed out the obvious, that my parents were going along with her, but they said that they were only going with her because Alex wanted it, and they were pretty sure that she wouldn't want me. Even they were aware of the fact that we didn't really get along. After that was made clear to me, there was nothing more to say, so I went back to my room. I just felt bad for myself, because even though I have not achieved anything great academically, I think a football scholarship was worth a celebration as well. But my parents did not seem to care about me or my achievements. On top of that, they were willing to leave me home alone for the entire week while they were gone, and Alex would get to celebrate with her friends in Hawaii. I was miserable for one full day, until I realized that my family being gone for 1 week would mean that I would have the house to myself and could do whatever I wanted. So that made me feel a little less upset, and I decided I was going to make the best of the situation. While they were preparing for the trip, it felt like everyone had completely forgotten about me, and that was not a feeling that I was exactly used to, but it really stung. On the day that they were leaving, my parents told me to take good care of the house, and at least they said goodbye to me, but my sister did not even glance at me and just laughed. None of this was surprising behavior coming from her, so you guys can imagine how bad my relationship with her is. For the first couple of days, I just invited my friends over and we played video games, had a bunch of junk food, and just did whatever we felt like right from the morning, until the evening when they had to go home. This was my plan for every day. On the final day, I was going to call my friends and tell them that they were free to come over that day as well. But at around 8 in the morning, I heard the doorbell ringing, and it was way too early for my friends to show up. I hadn't woken up properly yet either, because I had been sleeping in late ever since I graduated from high school. So when I went downstairs and looked outside the window to see who it was, I was kind of shocked to see my mother standing there. It took me a few minutes to remind myself that my mother was not here. She was with the rest of the family in Hawaii, and this must be somebody else. Then I noticed a couple of differences as well. This woman who was standing outside the door was much taller than my mother. She also looked kind of younger, and she had blonde highlights in her hair, and my mom hated that. So I was able to gather that this was definitely not my mom, but someone who looked weirdly similar to her. I decided to open the door after contemplating it for a bit, because if she looked similar to my mother, it meant that she must be a relative of some sort. When I opened the door, she introduced herself as my mom's cousin and said that she had been living in the UK for the past 20 years, so I had probably never seen her before. From what I knew, my mother did not have any siblings and she was an only child. This woman looked like she was just a couple of years younger than my mother, so I had guessed already that she must have been a cousin. But for a cousin to look that similar to my mom, it was just weird, and I definitely hadn't ever heard of my mom talking about some cousin from the UK. But then again, I don't really speak to my mother that often anyway. I invited her in, but I made sure to tell her that my parents were not home, because I was certain that she had come to see them and not me. To my surprise, she told me that that was fine, because she hadn't come to see them, she had actually come to see me and my sister. That was another shock for me, because I couldn't imagine what she wanted to do with me and my sister. But anyway, I had to tell her that I was the only person who was home when my sister was away. She seemed a bit upset when I said that, and asked me where the rest of them were. So I decided to be honest with her, because her face just seemed like she could be trusted, and I told her the truth. Like most other people, she was also shocked when she found out that my family had left me back home alone and had taken a trip to Hawaii with my sister to celebrate her high school graduation, even though I had also graduated at the same time. I kind of tried to downplay how terrible I had felt because I didn't want to make it seem like I was complaining to her, since I didn't want my mother to yell at me for spilling the beans about our family to her cousin when they came back. She told me how sorry she was and said that she could understand how I felt, so she wanted to give me a gift. Then she took out her checkbook from her purse and wrote me a check but asked me to fill in the amount. This was the first time that anything like this had ever happened, and I was shocked. So I told her that I couldn't let her do that because I just couldn't accept money from her. We went back and forth on that for a couple of minutes, and then she just said that she was going to fill in the amount that she wanted to give me and wrote me a check for $50,000. I insisted that I couldn't accept that from her because it was a huge amount, something that I couldn't even imagine. But she told me that she just wasn't going to hear it, and I had to accept it. She said that it was the least she could do for me, and honestly I still don't know what it means, but in the end she forced me to accept the check. Then we spoke a bit about my family and how everyone else was doing, but I could tell that her mind was elsewhere and she was definitely not listening to me. After about half an hour, she told me that she had to leave and said that she hoped to meet me again soon enough. Once she had left, I realized that it had been a very weird meeting and her behavior had been extremely off. I also couldn't shake off the feeling that she had been lying about being my mom's cousin, because cousins definitely do not look that similar to each other. Or maybe they do sometimes, but I just got this feeling, and I still do, that my mom has a sister that none of us know about. And that's why she had to lie to me about being my mom's cousin. I know it's crazy, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that woman was the spitting image of my mother, and I could just feel it. Now, coming to the part where I kind of messed up, it was really careless of me, but I was so put off by that meeting with the woman that I forgot about the check. I left it there on the coffee table under a bunch of letters that had arrived from my parents during that week. Then my friends came over and we had a bit of a party with a couple of other people as well, so I completely forgot about that check. The next morning, my family came back from Hawaii, and everyone was in a celebratory mood, apart from me, obviously. A couple of minutes after they had come back home, my parents started going through their mail, and at the very bottom of it, they found that check. I'm incredibly lucky that I was standing right there and was able to snatch it out of my father's hands as soon as he saw it, but it was a bit too late because he had realized that it had been a check addressed to me and started asking a bunch of questions about it. I don't really blame him for that, because if someone writes your son a check for $50,000, you definitely do want to ask questions about it. After they found out about the check, I knew that there was no point in hiding anything. So I told him about the woman who had visited, the conversation we had, and that she had written me the check because she wanted to, and that I was going to deposit the check soon enough. One very interesting thing that happened while I was telling everyone about the visitor was that I could see my parents started looking very nervous. I'm not even kidding when I say that the color literally drained out of their faces. It was very obvious because they had come back from Hawaii all tanned, and all of a sudden they started to look pale and sweaty. I was about to ask my mother who on earth this cousin from the UK was, because I could tell there was something that both of them were hiding from us. But before I could do that, thanks to my bratty sister, the conversation was completely derailed. She cannot live without making everything about her, so she obviously picked that very moment to start complaining about how the check had been addressed only to me, and said that I should have spoken to that aunt and told her to make it out to both of us instead of just me. I told her that this woman had known about both of us, and she had chosen to address the check to just me on purpose. I then tried to go back to speaking to my parents, but all three of them started talking about the check instead. It was a clear attempt to change the topic of conversation, and it worked because my parents started encouraging my sister to fight with me, and she fell for the bait. Alex eventually started screaming at me to get my attention and said that this was very unfair and that I would have to split the amount with her. That got my attention, and I told her that there was no way on earth I was going to let that happen because she had already received her gift. She wanted a trip to Hawaii with her friends, and that's what she had gotten. Now, this was my gift, so I wasn't obliged to share it with her, just like she wasn't obliged to share her trip to Hawaii with me. I thought it was a fair enough statement, but my parents started egging her on and said that if my aunt had come to visit us, she had obviously intended to give us both a gift. They implied that I must have played the victim card in front of her, and out of pity, she wrote me the check since I must have painted the rest of my family as the villains. Alex bought that story, and honestly, I didn't really have to play the victim card because I definitely was a victim here. I was the victim of a terrible family, and I don't know whether that woman wrote the check out of pity or not, but it had been addressed to me, and I was not going to share it with anyone. So obviously that led to a huge fight, and my parents were encouraging my sister to be even more delusional and entitled throughout the conversation. Maybe she wasn't clever enough to catch on to what they were trying to do, but I could understand that they were just trying to distract us from thinking about our aunt. And I was getting really pissed off because all of them were being ridiculous. Eventually, my mother told me that I was not going to be living with them anymore if I refused to share that money with my sister, and that's when I just totally lost it. I started yelling like a crazy person, which I usually try to avoid because I don't want to be on the same level as my family, but I just couldn't control myself. I told them that I knew my rights, and I was not going anywhere, and neither was I sharing the money with her. To be honest, I don't really know if there are any laws to prevent that, but I'm sure that after my outburst, they definitely won't be coming after me anytime soon. I also called my parents the biggest liars because I was sure that they were hiding something from both of us, and I couldn't believe they were trying to get us to fight with each other so that we would forget about the visitor. Then I stormed up to my room so I could calm down, threw a bunch of stuff around, and eventually I was able to get myself under control. Since then, nobody in the family has spoken to me, and even at mealtimes, my mother brings the food up to me and leaves without a word. I feel like a prisoner in my own house, and I honestly felt like running away last night. The only person who has said anything to me so far was Alex, but even she was just looking out for herself. She came to my room this morning and said that all of this could have been avoided if I had just agreed to split the money with her and stop bugging my parents about our aunt, when I could see that they didn't want to talk about it. And now I don't have anybody to blame apart from myself for the whole. I bugged myself into $50,000 is a huge amount, and splitting it with her was not going to harm me or whatever, but I just wanted it all to myself. After having said that, she laughed, and I thought that she was the most selfish person ever. But then I started thinking about a lot of things. Maybe I have been acting just like her. I also feel like I might have read too much into the situation with my aunt, but at the same time their reaction was too suspicious not to take note of. I feel like I'm losing my mind right now. I just have so many mixed emotions about everything that I don't even know why I'm so upset. So I really need to ask, do you guys think there was anything suspicious about the way my parents reacted to the news of my aunt visiting? And more importantly, am I the a-hole for refusing to split the $50,000 with my sister? Update 1. Hi guys, first of all, thank you so very much for all the responses and comments on my post. Never in my life had I imagined that so many people could have something to say to me and would take time out of their lives to actually give me advice on such a situation. It also feels very comforting to know that there are more people like me out there, so thanks for that. I guess I was a bit all over the place in my original post, but I would honestly blame that on the kind of situation that I'm in. But anyway, I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet this time. So first things first, I have decided to move out of my parents' house. I thought about it long and hard. They want this, and I definitely want it. I never left home because I thought it would be taking things too far, but this time it's my parents who have taken it too far. I have never gotten along with them, nor have I ever gotten along with my sister. I just don't see the point in staying with them anymore, so I have decided that I'm going to live with a friend of mine until college starts. Like, update. They went white as a sheet when I mentioned a certain visitor who stopped by during their absence, and now my sister is having a meltdown. His parents very kindly agreed to let me live with them for free, even though I offered to pay rent. The bottom line is I'm getting out of here, and obviously I'm keeping all the money. All things said and done, the check has been made out to me and just me. I'm not obliged to share that kind of money with anyone, least of all my sister. If they hadn't left me at home by myself while they went off on vacation, I probably wouldn't even have met my aunt, and neither would I have received that kind of money. So in a way, they are responsible for this. She has never treated me with kindness or respect, so it's very stupid of her to expect me to share the money with her now. I'm sure that my parents will always take care of her. Can't say the same thing for myself though, so I definitely need the money more than she does. I don't even know why I was considering splitting it with her or having second thoughts about whether I was doing the right thing. I guess I was just too emotional. But I have thought about it, and I don't need to feel sorry for what I'm doing. They never have, and it's fair enough for me to act just like them. It has been 3 days since my post, and I've been packing everything up. Tomorrow, around the afternoon, my friend's dad will be here with his pickup truck, and I will be gone. I really just can't wait. To update, so a lot of things have changed in my life since my last update. It's crazy to think that it was only 4 days back. I don't even know where to start, but I guess a good place to pick up would be where I left off. I said that I was going to move out of my parents' home, and I did that the day after I made that post. My friend's father was here to pick me up, and he helped me move all my things. Obviously, I did not have to take any furniture with me, it was just a bunch of boxes. My parents saw all of that happening but did not ask any questions. Alex did not even bother to come out of her room. She just popped out once, saw what was going on, and then went back inside. After we had moved the last of the boxes, I was about to leave without even saying goodbye because I was sure that nobody really cared about it. But before I was able to walk out of the door, my mother stopped me and asked me where I thought I was going. So I told her that for the past couple of days, nobody in the family had spoken to me, and everybody liked to pretend that I did not even exist. Now they did not have to pretend anymore. They could fully be themselves around the house and forget about me in the true sense because I was moving out. It shouldn't come as a shock to them because she herself had said that if I did not share the money with my sister, I would not have a place in this house anymore. Since I had decided that I was not going to be sharing the money with anyone, I thought it was better for me to leave on my own rather than be kicked out. My parents told me that I was being stupid and that this arrogance of mine would wear off once I realized that $50,000 was not enough to last in the world on my own. I just ignored that and walked out, and they did not try to talk to me any further. My friend's father, funnily enough, was a lot more compassionate than my own parents and told me that everything was going to be fine on the drive to his house. There they set me up in the guest room, and that's where I've been staying. My friend has always been a great stand-up guy, and his family is the reason why. They're all just kind and sweet, and looking at them I realized that this is how families are supposed to be. So I'm happy to be living with them until it's time for me to leave for college. But that was not all that happened over the past couple of days. I was also able to find out the truth behind the visitor that we had, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with it. I think I had mentioned several times that the woman who had visited us looked uncannily similar to my mother, and I had already suspected that she might have been a sister that we did not know about. I guess I was right because last evening she reached out to me on social media and told me a bunch of things that I honestly don't know what to think about. Apparently she's my mom's youngest sister, but she had been cast out of the family because she got pregnant when she was in college. Guess who her kids are? Yeah, it's us. Alex and I are her children. But because she was just 19 and still in college, her parents forced her to give us up for adoption. Around the same time, my parents had started trying for a baby, but were struggling with conception. After one family meeting, it was decided that my mother would adopt her children. But the catch was that my parents only wanted one kid, and they wanted a girl child. That's when my biological mother put her foot down and said that both her children were going to go to the same set of parents. She was not going to separate us, and my grandparents convinced my parents to adopt us both. For the first couple of months after our adoption, my birth mother kept visiting us both, but I guess my mom was not fine with it anymore and told her parents that she wanted her to stop visiting. My mother claimed that it was going to confuse us to have two maternal figures growing up and said that it would be for the best for her to stay away from our family until my mother was fine with having her over. My grandparents decided that my mother was right, so they told my biological mother to stay away until my mom was ready to allow her to have a relationship with us. That led to a massive fight, and they did not speak for several years. Finally, she got back in touch with her parents at the beginning of this year, and I guess my grandparents have had a change of heart, so they gave her our address, and that's how she visited us. Both Alex and I are 18 now, so she thought it was going to be the perfect time to start building a relationship with us, and maybe eventually she would be able to tell us the truth. But after she had met me and realized how I was being treated by my family, she realized that she had made a mistake by allowing my mother to adopt her children, especially when it had been made obvious to her that my mother was only interested in raising her daughter. So she definitely adopted both of us, but she only accepted Alex and not me. She felt responsible for this, so she reached out to me and felt like it was her duty to tell me the truth because nobody else was going to. Several hours have passed since then, and I still haven't been able to come to terms with it. I don't even know what to think about it. And I haven't told anyone, not even my friend, who I'm living with right now. Typing it out here has helped me at least say it out loud once, but I still don't know what to do with this information. I haven't responded to her message, but she can see that I have read it. I guess it explains a lot of things, but God, I don't even know what to feel anymore. I'm just numb and confused and lost. But anyway, it's not like the world has stopped turning because of this revelation, and I'm going to have to do something about it eventually. I just don't know what, but I'll figure something out. I'm sure that the comments here will be helpful as well. Update 3. Hey, so 2 weeks have passed since I received that message from my aunt. I'm still not sure what to call her yet. She had introduced herself as someone who was supposed to be my aunt, but now she's my mother all of a sudden. Also, I have to say that even she is a better mother than the one who raised me. Anyway, I took my own sweet time to respond to her message, and I texted her back just 3 days ago. I told her that there was a lot to discuss, so I would want to meet in person, but I was open to having a relationship with her. I had already lost the family that I thought I had, so it couldn't hurt to give her a chance. Everyone screwed up, and she screwed up when she was 19. I can't hold that against her. I haven't told Alex about it yet because I don't think it's my place to say anything. I think our mother has to tell her the truth now. Which mother tells her the truth? That, I don't know. All I know is that in a couple of days, I'm going to be meeting with my biological mom, and we are going to try and fix our relationship because she's back for good and isn't going anywhere anymore. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I just hope it goes well. Keeping my fingers crossed. If you like this content, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.